How are you still single? I wanted to answer this question on behalf of all the 50-plus-year-old women who are like me, single, and not really trying to be paired up. It's a question that I get asked a lot. It used to tick me off. I thought it was an implication that it's not normal. Maybe there's something wrong with me. But I know some intentions are good when people ask me that question. I think I would be happier if I was with somebody. I would be told I'm pretty happy with my life as is. I ran across this video by Matthew McConaughey, and it really summed up how I feel. He said there was a point in his life where he was searching everywhere for the one. Every woman he came across, he asked himself, is this the one? And one day he decided he was going to accept whatever outcome would be. Shortly thereafter, he met his wife. And that's kind of where I'm at. I like my life. Sure, sometimes would it be great to have a partner, but I've accepted what is right now. I'm not forcing or chasing, because what is meant to be for me will be.
Well, I don't know what will happen in your future, but as for your present, the wall is what's there for you. Because we all know the wall doesn't forgive. It bothers these women when you ask them why they're single. It's a question that makes any woman over 30 uncomfortable. Because no matter how much she tries to camouflage that it's nothing, it is. She's at an age where she doesn't have a husband, no kids. In short, she's just taking up space. This is why women are the biggest consumers of antidepressants, because women are heavily attacked by this. Not by men, but by other women, often from their own family like sisters or aunts. Because they think that lately, in romantic comedies, they try to sell the idea of the wealthy single aunt who always looks fabulous and gives gifts. They want to make women believe that being single is the way to go. But in reality, we only see women living with a cat, depressed women, and others making TikTok videos, telling us about their sad lives, emphasizing every day more that the wall doesn't forgive. But let's take a look at the discourse of a modern woman about singleness in the next video.
If you are single,
In the past 30 years, there has been an increase in single women, and I actually think this is a positive trend. The US Census estimates that there's 118 million single adults, and 52% are women, which means that over 60 million women are single. And for context, in the 1990s, 43% of women were single. So according to the math, the trend line is rising. And there are basically 4 reasons why this is happening. The first is education. Women are graduating college at a higher rate than men. In fact, more women graduated with a higher education degree than men since 2015, and that trend is growing. By being more educated, we have a lot more women in the workplace, and they have the financial freedom to make decisions about who they want to be with. And in some cases, they may have less financial pressure to get married. Reason number 2 why more women are choosing to stay single is they are able to delay marriage and also motherhood. In the past, it was common for women in their 20s to get married and give birth. But nowadays, I have friends who have literally given birth to their first child in their 40s. My mom had me when she was in her mid to late 30s. And the reason why my mom delayed having me was because she was getting an education and she has a master's degree, so she was putting her career and her education first. Reason number 3 why there are more single women is because of divorce, which you might think is a bad thing, but it's not. People get divorced for so many reasons. It could be internal conflict related to money. It could be for physical safety, emotional well-being. And nowadays, it's just easier to get a divorce when couples have the financial means to do so. Reason number 4 why we see so many more single women is because social attitudes have changed. In the past, there was societal pressure for women to have children at a young age. But nowadays in Western culture, being single is actually more accepted. I mean, remember the song Single Ladies? It was a celebration of womanhood and empowerment. So if you are single, no matter what your age, I hope you don't feel pressure to find somebody and feel like you're competing in the dating pool, because you are living your life at your own pace, and that's pretty great.
As I told you, the wall doesn't forgive. Everything this woman said is real, and by 2030, that 52% she mentioned might even become 60% or more. You know, women after 30 struggling to find a man. The problem is that she says this is okay, but the reality is that it's not. Even though they release songs and articles claiming that single women are happier, what they don't tell you is that the biggest consumers of antidepressants are women. The number of women going to therapy increases every year. The amount of videos and comments talking about singleness is from women. The number of women over 30 without children experiencing depression is on the rise. Because at 20, everything is a party and joy, but at 35, with the sense of keeping it active, these women feel deep sadness. It's also true that the number of women graduating is increasing, but with artificial intelligence, it's said that jobs mostly affected will be those traditionally held by women. They aspire only to office jobs, and these are the ones that will disappear first. Another thing is that many women study careers like law or marketing to access men from better families, to try and secure themselves financially in the long run. Another thing on the rise is divorce, the main factor and maker of millionaires among women in the United States. Because for every millionaire man who becomes poor in a divorce, a new millionaire woman is born. Coincidence? I don't think so. Most men are giving up on getting married, and many women are just looking for an advantageous divorce. That's why you see so many women complaining about removing the no-fault divorce law. Brothers, the future for women is bleak, but let's see how she thinks in the next video.
I know I'm going to get hate on this one, but it has to be said. Ladies, for the love of God, beware of the too perfect single dads, especially the ones that talk shit about their baby mama. Because that woman looked at that man and thought, you know, it would be easier to leave my home, all of my belongings, to move out, to start over, to be a single mother. It would be easier to do that than to stay with this motherfucker. Just beware.
Imagine a man saying that about the mother of his children in the end. Do you know how many men abandon their marriage? Only 20%. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Do you know how many men have wanted to leave their home but don't take that step to maintain a marriage that, in many cases, is a dead marriage? Men who married a woman were never taken care of, abused, used as an ATM. Men who are now in financial ruin for trying to please a wife who, when divorcing him, only knows how to criticize her ex-partner who gave her everything. But do you think it's not easier for men to leave them stranded and start anew without them? To be happier leaving a marriage with a dead bedroom, depressed women emerging from nowhere, unfaithful women, women who constantly complain about everything? Do you know how many men fail to reach their potential just because of the woman they chose to be by their side? Men who have left the country after a disastrous divorce and then marry women from another, more traditional culture, feel that it's a total game changer, that their life takes a complete 180-degree turn. Here, I'll use a phrase that women often like to say to take credit for a man's success. Behind every successful man, there is a great woman. But behind every married man who fails, there is also a woman who ended up ruining his life.
So you're single in your 40s and you want to know if there's hope in finding a partner or true love or a soulmate. On today's episode of We Found Our Soulmate with Brooke, let me tell you about a phone call that I had this week. As most of you know, I do one-on-one mentorship calling, and most of the time I am there to help facilitate people that are looking for soulmate love. I help them manifest it, heal, get into the right vibration, etc., etc. And this week, I had a call from a client who paid for my 30-minute session just to call and tell me that she had found her soulmate. All she wanted to do was spend 30 minutes telling me how excited she was, how great it feels, how wonderful it is, and how no one else understands because people in her direct life haven't found the same type of soulmate connection. How all of a sudden, all of my stories made sense because she was experiencing them in parallel. And she's in her 40s, and she has a 17-year-old son. She's not 20, she's not 30, and it doesn't matter because soulmates don't care what age you are. And finding soulmate love is all about getting to the place personally where you're ready to receive it. And that can happen at any age. And yeah, you can come at me and say, I don't want to have to wait till I'm in my 40s. Okay. I feel that 100%, and I wish you didn't. But if you're in your 40s, it is not too late for you. If you're in your 50s, speaking of, I'm pretty sure the person she ended up with is in his 50s. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. You can find your soulmate no matter what age you're at. All that matters is that you get into the right vibration, you heal the things that need to be healed, and you accept that person into your space. You can have it. My client did. And as a fun little side note, she said that my journal is one of the things that helped her the most. So go buy that shit and start.
Brothers, this woman is just selling smoke, using psychological tricks every day to sell more of her mentorships, calls, and books to desperate women. She seems more like a charlatan, and brothers, you need to manifest that. It doesn't come because she's on the wrong vibe. Feel the calm waves of the sea, feel the air on your skin. You have to feel it. Enter the right vibe for your soulmate, sisters. Peace and good vibes. I can't help but laugh at this. I mean, who pays for this nonsense? This woman writes you a book, sells you a call to find your soulmate. But where is her soulmate? Apparently, the vibe only works when the other person pays, not when she needs it. I always say, brother, the wall puts women in a half-spiritual state. Then she says that women are happier single, but you have to be 35 or older, paying for sessions and buying a book on how to find your soulmate. That's why every day you see a dating coach selling their miraculous teachings on how to manifest a man. Not even the genie from the movie Aladdin dared so much. Then she doubts that the wall doesn't forgive.
It's funny because it's true.
People ask me, Oriana, how long did it take you and your ex-husband to get remarried? How long did it take you after your divorce? It took us about 2 years because we both tried to move on and tried to basically play pretend in our life. And it wasn't happening because we always were supposed to be together. And for all the people in my DMs and my comments asking, help me, what should I do? My husband, my wife, pray for them. Pray for their heart. Pray for their mind. If you don't believe in God, let me tell you something. Let's pray right now together because God is the only reason that I was brought back to my ex-husband. There is no other way, no other supernatural power. It was God, period. So my answer to how do I save my marriage? God. You're not going to find it in a self-help book. You're not going to find it on a TikTok page. You're not going to find it on a Pinterest board. You're not going to find it on some blogger on Instagram. You're going to find it through the only person that models what a marriage looks like. So let me encourage you. Jesus loves you. I don't know you and I love you, but get this. Jesus loves your spouse no matter what that person's done to you. Pray for them.
Brothers, the man whom a woman leaves and divorces, only to later accept her back, is a simp, someone who clearly has no options. Because a woman who leaves you, asks for a divorce, and then comes back after 2 years means one thing. Her post-divorce experience didn't turn out as she hoped. She picked you up before it was too late. Never give a woman the option to leave and return whenever she pleases. If she kicks you out, you'll never see me again. This woman thought the grass would always be greener, left after 30 with a divorce, returned to the carousel, saw the reality out there, and surely called her ex-husband, who was still an option behind her, to come back. No, brothers, have some dignity. You can't let someone back in who, during the time she left you, likely tried with others. Besides, all the recovery shock that a man has to go through after a divorce to rebuild himself, just to throw it all away and go back to where it was hard to escape, is a mistake in my opinion. But the simps never learn. They always want to play the white knight saving women, and then end up paying the price.
There are an increasingly large number of women who are just choosing not to get married. And
For the very last time, we are not having a mating crisis. What's happening is that women have access to information and education in ways that they didn't have in previous generations. We can now share stories and choose the bear. We can now own homes, open bank accounts. We know that. And we're not hypergamous as in we mate upwards. It was a necessity because we were blocked from owning things. You centralized through patriarchy the only access to independence and some form of survival and wealth into men, forcing women to have to choose. And as soon as we dismantled parts of the patriarchy to allow access to education, employment, financial stability independently, we exercised our choice. It is not a crisis, it's a liberation.
Always the same narrative about patriarchy oppressing them. Well, let's look at the data. According to a Morgan Stanley analysis, In 2018, 41% of working women between the ages of 25 and 44 were single. Projections estimate that by 2030, this number will rise to 45%, the highest percentage in U.S. history. If patriarchy is the problem, then why, now that women have more rights and freedoms than ever, are more of them single? According to the Pew Research Center, 2020, 19% of women between 30 and 49 were single, making this the group least likely to be without a partner. Meanwhile, 32% of women between 18 and 29 and 29% of those between 50 and 64 were also single. Additionally, the 2010 census indicated that women made up 50.8% of the total U.S. population, with a median age of 37.2 years. In short, the wall spares no one.
Don't get married in your early 20s. I'm sure there are some exceptions to the rule, but just don't do it. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not know who you are in your 20s. You barely know who you are in your early 30s. When you are in your 30s, something happens to you where you discover all the things you've hidden about yourself to cater to other people, where you are authentically finding who you truly are, what you love, what you like, what you don't like, things that you pretended to like for other people. You start, I'm not saying you fully get there, but you start getting to a point where you don't care what other people think, because you realize unless they are feeding you, fucking you, or paying your bills, they don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. Okay? And that is when you truly know who you are. As someone who got married in my early 20s quickly and got divorced in my 30s, this is not only true for me, but a lot of the clients that I coach, a lot of the individual men, the individual women, all the things, even with the men. You know, as they got into their 30s, the things they needed and desired and wanted, and not just sexually from their woman, it did change and evolve. And again, same for the women as well. So I encourage you to not get married in your early 20s. Don't get married until you are dead set in who you are, what you love, what you don't love, and until you are in a place where you hide nothing about who you are for anyone, or till you are in a place where you refuse to not change who you are for somebody. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when you're in your early 20s, you will change a lot of who you are to cater to somebody because you want to be loved so bad. In your 30s, you don't care.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Women are the only beings who constantly change their convictions depending on the stage of life they're in. Most men who marry early stick to their values and desires over the years. But when it comes to women, it's a different story. In the past, a woman could stay married for 20 years or more. Today, at the slightest dissatisfaction, she files for divorce. It's no coincidence that 80% of divorce filings come from women. According to a Forbes Advisor survey, 31% of people divorce due to irreconcilable differences, which often just means boredom or incompatibility. This is why women oppose eliminating no-fault divorce, because many end up separating for reasons like these. Constant arguments, 56%. Infidelity, 55%. Marrying too young, 46%. Unrealistic expectations, 45%. Lack of equality in the relationship, 44%. Lack of preparation for marriage, 41%. And then they wonder why more and more men are rejecting the idea of marriage.
Now that we are legally married, I would like to serve you with these.
More paperwork?
Yep, divorce papers.
You're funny, babe.
I'm not messing around, Daniel.
Babe, stop messing around. I'm thinking steak, wine.
No, Daniel. I'm being 1000% serious. I want a divorce.
I don't understand.
I never had intentions of living happily ever after with you. My plan was to be your wife and divorce you right after.
But I love you. You said you loved me.
I was just selling the role. What can I say? I guess that makes me a great actress.
I mean, I gave you everything.
You're a fool who fell for the wrong person. I never loved you. I just saw you as a ticket to an easy life.
I trusted you.
Trust is overrated. Money is all that matters in this world. You of all people should know that. And as your wife, soon to be ex-wife, I will now be taking half of everything you own.
No, you won't.
Like it or not, sweetheart, I'm legally entitled to it.
No, you're not. We both signed a prenuptial agreement.
A prenup? Ha.
Oh, it's funny because it's true.
A woman's greatest pain when filing for divorce isn't losing the man. It's realizing she can't walk away with all of his money. This is why I always say, on the wedding day, only the man gets married for love. The woman does it for a lifestyle. Because only a man in love would enter a contract where he's willing to lose everything. Brothers, I always tell you, get a prenup. Never get married without one. You've already seen the ridiculous reasons women have for filing for divorce. The irony is that when it comes to splitting the bill for dinner, they don't want to go 50-50. But when it's time for divorce, they love the idea of a 50-50 split of the assets.
December is here, you guys, and yes, it is a season of Santa Claus and Jingle Bells. But guess what other season is among us? Divorce season. Of course, your favorite, yours truly. I'm going to explain why. Now, I'm not sure if other family law attorneys across the country experience this too, but this is definitely a thing here. For years, consistently, I filed more divorces in December, January, and February more than any other month throughout the year. And here's why. You got your snack? All right, let's get into it. Now, December, that's my New Year's resolution group. All of them want to make sure they don't go into the new year in that bad marriage. Now, January, that's my family-oriented group. They wanted to keep their family together for the holidays, but once January got here, to the curb. Now, February, that's my second, third, and fourth chance group. Now, they consulted way back in December, but they wanted to give their spouse just one more chance to make it right. But it didn't work, so they're here in February. So now that we are all clear that divorce season is among us, if you know you're about to be a part of this group or know somebody who needs to be a part of this group, let me tell you what you should be doing right now. First and foremost, if you are contemplating filing for divorce, you should have been consulted with an attorney. The day that all hell breaks loose is not the day you start to try to gather the information that you need. For instance, did you know there's no separation here in Texas? You do not have to be separated before you file for divorce. What we have here is called a cooling off period. You have to wait 60 days after you file to finalize. And it's because we want to make sure people really want a divorce. You don't want to be mad today and then happy tomorrow and then it's too late. So 60 days is enough time to give people time to cool off and see if this is really what they want. And did you know you actually have to file for divorce under one of our 7 grounds? We have 3 grounds under no fault and 4 grounds under fault. The most common one under no fault is insupportability. The most common one under fault is adultery. Next, you should probably start making the list on, oh my God! Wow!
In this country, we celebrate everything. So much so that now there are even dates to celebrate divorce. As I mentioned before with divorce rates, it's easy to see why so many women file for it. Many want to start the year with a new life and new adventures, of course, financed with their ex-husband's money. Because they don't walk away empty-handed, the system protects them. This has led to an interesting phenomenon. According to a 2022 survey by the Harris Poll, 15% of married or engaged adults signed a prenuptial agreement. This is a significant increase from just 3% in 2010. The rise is even more notable among younger people. 40% of those signing prenups are between 18 and 34 years old. Additionally, 42% of adults support these agreements, and 35% of single people say they would likely sign one in the future. Men are learning. But let's continue.
What are your non-negotiables? What are some things you're willing to give and take on? For instance, you might say, I'll walk away from the house, but I'm not sharing a penny in my retirement. Being able to articulate to your attorney the things that are important to you versus the things that aren't so important helps us help you. Next, you want to think about how much are you willing to invest fighting for what you want. I have my group that are very amicable. They don't want to spend a lot of money. They don't want to ruffle too many feathers. They want to get in and get out. Then I have my middle group. They're willing to fight for what they want, but this is my mediation group. They want to mediate and settle this after maybe a little bit of a tussle. And then I have my other group who want to fight to the death. It's important to know which kind of fighter you are. Next, it is time to start gathering your financial documents if finances is going to be a thing in your divorce, no matter if it's going to be over retirement or bank accounts or child support or spousal support. Even if you're not the spouse requesting child support or requesting spousal support, you also want to be able to show the court if they ask you for too much, like, Judge, I ain't got it. I don't know what she looking for. I ain't got it. Now, if there's a little in your relationship, please take photos. Are there police reports? Are there urgent care visits? Please come with proof. Come with something more than just allegations. And before I let you go, this is not the time to pretend to be parent of the year. I am great at my job, but I am not Houdini. If you are a weekend dad, even though you live in the same household with your kids, but you only interact with them on Saturdays and Sundays, don't ask me for full custody. Stop. If you are a subpar mama, but you think you're about to get more rights to him because you happen to be a woman, think again. And see, you don't want to play them kind of games with an attorney like me because I'm a trick. See, a couple weeks ago, I had a hearing. Somebody was asking for full custody. It was almost Thanksgiving. And I was like, okay, you want full custody? Holidays coming up. Let's say y'all about grandma. It's Thanksgiving. Are you going to let the child have a slice of pecan pie before dinner or after? They're like, oh, of course, only pecan pie after dinner, never before. And I was like, that's interesting. Because your child has a nut allergy. Literally, we could end up at a funeral giving custody to you. Last but not least, men and women, get a therapist. There is nothing wrong with going to therapy. Trust me, it makes your attorney's job a lot easier when we can focus on the task at hand and we're not like trying to coach you through the emotional part of this. Let us do our part. Let the therapist do theirs. Oh, before I let you go.
Damn! Do you know why most men are destroyed in divorce? Because in almost every case, it's the woman who files for it. This gives her a huge advantage. She's been preparing for months, gathering evidence with her lawyer, while the man is in shock, not even understanding what's happening. And that's when many make the worst mistake possible, not hiring a good lawyer. Brothers, a lawyer in a divorce is like a rifle in war. If you don't have one, you're dead. The judges will destroy you, and in mediation, the lawyer will be on her side. That means they'll empty your pockets without mercy. And it doesn't stop there. You could end up paying alimony even if you give up the house, the cars, or any other assets. The system is not designed to benefit men. According to 2018 data, 80% of custodial parents are mothers, while only 20% are fathers. Mothers receive 65% of custody time, while fathers get only 35%. If this video doesn't make it clear that you need a lawyer, I don't know what else could be a wake-up call for you.
Ladies.
Yes?
If he's not offering to pay for your manicure pedicure.
And why exactly should he be paying for that? One's own personal beauty maintenance should be one's own personal responsibility.
Really, what is he doing with that money?
Oh, I think I know the answer to this one. He could be paying his bills, paying his rent or his house payment, saving away for his retirement. You know, doing something useful with his money.
Because you deserve your nails done. And he should be paying.
Is anyone else getting the feeling that a lot of these so-called independent women really aren't independent at all?
And if he hasn't gotten the hint by now, just send him this video. Just give him a little sign. A wake-up call.
Well, that'll be quite a wake-up call. Quite a doozy, in fact, I'd imagine. Just imagine getting sent this video, only to realize that you're not actually with someone who wants to be with you because of who you are, but what they can get out of you, sponging off of you so that they can get the things paid for that they want. What a great way to find out that one is not in a great relationship.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
The modern woman, strong and independent, until it's time to pay with her own money. They want to live in complete freedom, but with a man's wallet. That's when you realize why so many are looking for a high-value man, and why so many fail in their attempt to wait for the winner at the finish line. As a man, I've always liked investing in a woman, but investing in experiences where both of us benefit. Now, covering the expenses of a woman who works? That's not my problem. First, you're not my wife for me to do that. Second, if you work, what do you do with your money? Brothers, remember this. Don't give wife treatment to a woman who hasn't earned it.
Hello there, it's Dusty once again with another story for you. This one is titled, Am I the Astronaut Forgoing No Contact with Mother-in-Law After She Convinced My Husband to Ask for a Paternity Test Because Our Baby Looks Too Much Like Me? Sorry, this is going to be a long one. Continuing along the same lines, I see. and I apologize in advance for any spelling mistakes. English is not my first language. 4 months ago, me, 31 female, and my husband, Mark, 32 male, welcomed our first child, our daughter, Sophia. Me and Mark have been together for 10 years and married for 6. Getting pregnant wasn't exactly a walk in the park. We were trying for 2 years before it finally happened, and I miscarried 4 times during those years. Damn. My parents died when I was 15, and I lived with my grandparents until I was 18 and started at college. My mother-in-law has been like a mother to me and had been an amazing support ever since me and Mark got together. She made dinners and called daily to check up on me after the miscarriages. When Sophia was born, the first thing mother-in-law did when she came to visit was check up on how I was doing after the birth before focusing on Sophia. I remember thinking I had the best mother-in-law anyone could ask for. She was the first person we told about her pregnancy at week 18, and she was over the moon about becoming a grandma. The first 4 weeks after we got home from the hospital, she moved in with us to help out with Sophia. She was so helpful and always made sure that she didn't overstep in any way. My mother-in-law always talked about how Sophia was a mini version of me and told everybody about how my daughter was a true copy of me. Mark was in love with our little girl and did everything he could to help out. He came home early every day to spend as much time as he could with Sophia and me. Everything seemed perfect. This was what we had wanted for so long. All he could talk about was how perfect our little girl was and how much she looked like me. He even found some old pictures of me and made a photo collage of me and her as babies to put on the wall. After my mother-in-law moved home, I think I saw her a couple of times and would only speak to her if I called her. But to be honest, I didn't think much of it as I was super busy being a mother.
I'm going to share an unpopular opinion, but I've always believed in the saying, a married couple needs their own home. In other words, living alone with your partner. It's one thing for your mother to visit and a completely different thing for her to move into your house. This applies to both sides because, let's be honest, no one wants to live with their mother-in-law. Besides, relationships are already complicated as they are. When a third person enters the home, sides start to form. Privacy is lost, and problems multiply. But let's take a look at where the real issue with Sophia begins.
After the first 2 months, Mark started getting more distant and coming home late. He started to spend a lot of time at his mother's house, as he said she needed help with some renovations in her house. I appreciated all the help mother-in-law had given us, so I decided not to complain about it, even though I was exhausted from never getting an hour to myself anymore. Well, this kid was, before the kid was 3 months old? He's just not coming home to, be with his new kid and help? We're officially in red flag mode for the first time of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. Right after Sophia turned 3 months, Mark came home and said we needed to talk. He sat me down and told me that he wanted to do a paternity test because his mother thinks our child looked too much like me and nothing like him. My jaw was on the floor and I felt something inside me break. He doubled down, saying he agreed with Sophia looking like me and nothing like him, and that mother-in-law had told him I probably cheated with someone who has some of the same features as me. You dumb biznatch. Mother-in-law? The only explanation is that she f***ed herself. Mother-in-law claims that their family genes are super strong, and Sophia should have some of Mark's features if she was his. After she was done talking, I couldn't get a word out. I just started crying. It feels like the biggest betrayal that they both accused me of cheating, and the reason being my daughter looks too much like me. He told me he was sorry, but his mother got into his head and he couldn't let it go, and it was constantly on his mind. I just felt defeated by the whole situation and agreed to the paternity test. Although I told him that when the test came back telling Sophia is his daughter, I wanted nothing to do with mother-in-law. And we would have to start couples counseling if there was any hope at all for this relationship to be saved. Good for you to in this moment where you are emotionally destroyed, not just by the fact that you just had a child, but the miscarriages leading up to this, emotionally and mentally, psychologically, you had every right to just freeze. And instead, you're like, no, healthy boundary time.
Hey, bro. What? Oh, my God!
As I've said before, you're not oblivious to the times you live in. According to studies, 1 in 3 men who take a DNA test discover they are not the biological father. That means 32% of the men who have doubts end up confirming a case of paternity fraud. In this case, the person requesting the test isn't just anyone. It's his mother. For many men, myself included, she is the most important person in their life. And if someone who saw you being born, who has observed your entire family and your cousins, tells you that the child looks nothing like you, it's hard to ignore. Now, I'm not saying the way she brought it up was ideal. It wasn't the right moment, but let's be honest. For women, there's never a good moment for this. There's also another point to consider. She had a lot of difficulty getting pregnant. I'm not judging, but in a case like that, it's only natural for a small doubt to arise. Let's see what she decides to do.
Good for you. Fast forward to now, the test came back a week ago, and a surprise, surprise, she is his daughter. He had this look of relief before the guilt and panic hit him, and he started to apologize to me over and over again. I told him he needed to tell his mother and then tell her we needed a break from her. Surprisingly, he was all for it, and I could hear him yelling at her for making him doubt me and telling her we didn't want any contact for a while. Mark blocked her number after hanging up, so she started to call and text me. It switched from that she was sorry, and I was horrible for not seeing it from her point of view and taking away her family. I blocked her too, but some of his extended family has messaged both Mark and me calling us cold-hearted assholes for cutting mother-in-law out the way we have. Well, who do you think they have to deal with now? Come on. I have started to doubt my decision, thinking I was too harsh after being hurt. Maybe I made a mistake by distancing ourselves from mother-in-law. After all, she was just looking out for her only son. So, am I the astronaut? No. No, you're not. You're not the astronaut in any way, shape, or form here. Not even like could have, should have, done something different. Nope. You did everything right. Well, almost everything right. And I say right as in what I would do in your shoes, I would hope. And the only thing that I would change in the way that you responded here was it feels like you let him back in or off the hook real easy. Yes, you say we got to do couples counseling, but the test results come back and by the way, the in-between, taking the test and waiting on results, you guys just cohabitated like everything was hunky-dory. That's awkward. Test comes in, he sees it, he realizes he up big time, and you say, call your mom. And he does, but he's like, yeah, I'm on her side now. We're on the same team and everything's good. No, nothing's good, sir.
Oh, hell no!
I don't agree with his opinion because there are two sides to this. In this case, yes, the test confirmed that the child was his daughter. Everything turned out well for her. She is a good, serious woman, and this man was fortunate. But that doesn't take away his right to want to know the truth. It's true that his mother got involved in the relationship, but this was her only son. She saw that her granddaughter looked nothing like him, and honestly, any woman in her position would have had doubts too. What I do find unacceptable is this man's reaction toward his mother. She didn't force him to take the test. He decided to do it on his own. He could have ignored her if he truly trusted his wife. But now that he knows the truth, he wants to blame his mother and play the victim, as if he had been manipulated. As a man, that's just low. But let's move on and see how this concludes.
Because you just dug a hole to the other side of the world, and you got to start filling that hole a little bit at a time. That came out wrong. You know what I mean. He's got to dig himself out of that hole. That's why they don't say fill that hole. Dig yourself out of that hole. That's going to be a lot of work to undo the damage that he's done. And yes, therapy is going to be a big part of that, but I don't think I would give him the comfort or permission to start acting like we were a team right now. Nope, you are not on my team yet. You are on IR for a while, sir. We'll see if you come back week 17. But no, you are not the astronaut at all for this. It's interesting that she was so helpful, and then all of a sudden she had this thing where she just couldn't figure it out, which, you know, do a Google search, you bizzo. If you don't have enough knowledge about this topic, about why a child could look more like one parent than the other, and if it's the mother, is that possible? Yeah, it's possible. Do a Google search, or don't have an opinion on it. I can't understand how she went from being the perfect mother-in-law to all of a sudden having this twist. But she was never the perfect mother-in-law, and here's how we know. Because instead of having this conversation with you and being like, hey, I can't get this out of my head, and I just need you to like, just look me in the eye and talk to me and just put this to rest. I know this is a me problem, this is not you, but I've got this demon in my head that keeps saying this thing, and I need to know, like, I can't shut him up. I need you to shut him up for me. That honest and open conversation probably would have been awkward as hell and might not have gone great, but it wouldn't have done nearly the damage that turning her son against you did. And it wouldn't have cost her the relationship with the both of you and her grandbaby. She felt it. You have every right to be angry.
Although I agree with a lot of what he says, this man is thinking rationally. But when it comes to these topics, women don't react with logic. Just mentioning a DNA test, even without having kids, can create conflict. The first thing they do is play the trust card. 32% of men who take a DNA test find out the child isn't theirs. And we're not talking about just any men. We're talking about married men who fully trusted their wives. That's why my recommendation will always be to take the test in secret. If the result is negative, that's when you confront her. But until that moment, no one needs to know. Unless you're one of those soft men who feel they need to consult their wife about everything. As for the mother, I do feel a bit sorry for her. She tried to protect her son and ended up being the loser. I understand that the daughter-in-law doesn't want anything to do with her, but for the son to cut her out of his life, when it was his own decision and not hers, is an act of cowardice. Besides, how will this relationship survive knowing he abandoned his own mother? In the heat of the moment, it might seem like the right choice, but in the long run, this will weigh heavily on both of them. Emotional men make stupid decisions.
I'm probably going to delete this after I post it, but on the off chance that I can help one person or someone will be able to relate, I don't know how else to put this, but I feel like I'm failing at life. Every single aspect. I am 25, and I have never been more unhappy. I don't have a relationship, which is fine, but I also don't feel like I have friendships. I'm failing at my job and just being made to feel like I'm not good enough. The few relationships I have with people in my family honestly just don't feel very healthy for me. I just want to put this out there and be vulnerable for anyone who feels that way, to know that you're not alone, coming from someone who thought she did it all. I've got 3 million people on here, but somehow I'm still failing at everything, even when there are a million reasons to give up. I hope you do what I'm doing and you keep going, because maybe it gets better one day. That's what I tell myself.
When I was young, I always heard older women advising the younger ones, get married and find a good man. This woman seems to have everything: followers, maybe a good job, financial stability, yet she still feels empty. This happens due to the lack of a male partner by her side. We constantly hear women say, "I'd rather be alone, I choose the bear," or "single women are happier." But when you look at reality, many of them seem anything but happy. Even the author who wrote a book about the happiness of being single ended up getting married and saying she had never been happier. That emptiness becomes even more apparent when the wall approaches, because the wall doesn't forgive. That's when they realize that more money, more trips, and more parties no longer bring the same excitement. They start feeling the need to build something real and lasting. Because, as I said before, time and the wall do not forgive.
To my girlies in their 30s, time isn't running out. It's not. Feels like it is. If you look at social media, oh my God, you're running out of time. It's not. It's not. Other people will make you feel like you're running out of time because they want everyone to do what they're doing so they feel better about their choices. There's no race, like there's no checkered flag at the end of life where they're like, she did it all. Extra stars for when you're dead. Your 30s, travel. Tell people how you really feel. Don't lie to your therapist. And be okay to not be okay. And be okay with missing out, because staying in is more fun.
Stop it. Get some help.
Every speech sounds nice when you have money. But when you don't, that life of travel and freedom isn't feasible. This woman can afford her Instagram life because she's an actress, she has money, and she lives well. But what about the average woman? The one who doesn't have financial stability, who reaches 30 without getting married, who lives on a small salary with no family to support her. Do you really think she's having the time of her life? Instead of giving productive advice, her best suggestion is, don't lie to your therapist. That's the same as me telling you, if you're alone, just buy a cat. Instead of telling women to prioritize what truly matters, she sells them the idea that time never runs out and that traveling and missing out on things is the ideal choice. Brothers, misery loves company. Women like this only create more single women, because the worst enemy of a woman is another woman.
Men do not have your best interest. Instead of working on themselves and elevating themselves, they would rather ruin you. I was tagged in a video, which it was a joke, it was a skit by a couple of the woman standing in the kitchen being like, the gym is making her look a little too good, making her look like she's out of my league. Pans over to the man, he's like handing her ice cream or high-calorie fattening food because he wants her to be less beautiful, because he is threatened by her beauty. And this we see across the board. Men don't feel like enough, and oftentimes men are not enough for the women that they are around. The women around them are settling for less simply because they want proximity to relationship and romance, but these men are okay with that. They want to ruin you. We see this often when a woman is becoming more successful within her career, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant. All of a sudden a man wants to get married. All of a sudden he wants to have kids at the peak of her career. They do this to dismantle you. They do this to knock you down. They do this so that the attention comes off of you and onto them. It is a form of control. There is a reason they are so upset by women choosing to be single and to be child-free, because then in that way, they're not able to control those women.
You see what I'm saying, brothers? Misery loves company. This woman has a clear agenda against men. Everything a man does must be criticized, ridiculed, or insulted. But is there a single man who, in her eyes, does something right? No, because she doesn't even like men. So why does she think she has the right to insult them or dictate how they should behave in a relationship when she herself would never be in one? If a woman doesn't want jokes, children, family, taking care of a man, or being prioritized by one, then she should stay alone. Because being in a relationship means caring about the other person's needs. I'm sure the woman in the example prefers to look attractive for her man, and even if he's jokingly feeding her, that doesn't change their relationship or her self-esteem. No man wants his woman to look less attractive to him. But these types of women see pregnancy and motherhood as a curse, when so many women dream of becoming mothers. Like I said, this is just another woman with an agenda against men.
This seems like common sense, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'm not lucky that I have a good husband. I have a good husband because I married a good man. People keep commenting on my TikTok that I'm lucky I have such a good husband, I'm lucky that he puts up with this, blah, blah, blah. Luck didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, he was a good man when we were dating, so I married him. Good men turn into good husbands. Bad boyfriends don't make good husbands. I knew when I was dating Caden that he would be a great husband and a great father. So I chose to marry him and then bear his children. It wasn't luck. It wasn't like a coin flip. I knew who he was, and I knew I wanted to build a life with him. Somebody commented that her partner would strangle her if she acted like I did. And it was like, you should get a new partner.
Oh my God! Wow!
Exactly, but many women who chase after Chad don't understand this. Then, they blame all men for their bad choices when the responsibility was always theirs. In any relationship, there are clear signs. Some show that you have a good partner, while others are obvious red flags. But many women choose to ignore them because they cling to the fantasy that the bad boy will change for them. The reality is that a womanizer rarely changes. So, congratulations to this woman for recognizing that she has a good man and for giving him the value and place he deserves.
What does he get in return?
I think I should answer that. So I get a...
If you haven't watched that video, please watch it. But I cut it just when this interviewer asked the man, what do you bring to the table to the wife? And I just love how the husband interjected and was like, I will answer that actually. And I will let you know the value that she brings to me. I'm not going to let you embarrass her and have her prove her worth to you, a stranger. Like, I just made a video on this, but this is why, girls, it's so important not to just go after the provider, but go after the protector as well. It's not good enough to have a golden retriever type energy man who cannot protect you. And it's not protecting in the sense of, oh my goodness, if there's a threat on the street, he's going to be able to defend me. Of course, that's important. But I'm talking about protecting your honor. Okay? Like, is a man going to allow you to get embarrassed? Because I'm telling you right now, that would be, I already know it's like the biggest turnoff for a lot of women, but I know that would be the end for me at that point. Like if you were able to stand next to me and not defend me or pretty much check the man that's trying me, what the heck is going on? That's the question. Anyway. So, like I said, or if I didn't say this already, please watch the video because you're going to get full context, okay? But it's not enough to date a provider. I'm sorry. It's not enough. You have to date a man who's dominant and who truly is not afraid to have a backbone, like who has that assertiveness and is not afraid to flex and to check those men that want to disrespect you, even if it's not intentional. Like, I'm sure this interviewer guy, like, this is part of his like work and livelihood, so he has to kind of make this controversial content anyway. But if you were caught in between a man who's just super sweet and super cute and kind and whatever, but he is unwilling, and you've experienced this before, he's unwilling to actually stand up for you, that to me is an absolute loss. So I hope this is a learning curve, girls.
I think he's right about some things. A protective man will also defend his woman's honor, especially if she is a good woman. But let's be clear, the interviewer wasn't asking uncomfortable questions. He simply asked something basic. What do you bring to this man's life? The fact that a woman doesn't mention a financial contribution isn't an issue, because most men, myself included, aren't looking for money from a woman. We look for care, acts of service, the qualities of a good mother, and most importantly, respect. That's why I applaud the man for stepping up and answering the question, highlighting his woman's qualities. But honestly, a woman who is truly doing things right in her relationship shouldn't feel offended by a question like this. What do you think, brothers? We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. Why do you think many women get offended when asked what they bring to a relationship? Is it fair for some women to blame all men for their bad relationship choices instead of taking responsibility? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from The Wall.